It's an interesting time to be a fan of strategy games without owning a PC, or wanting more flexibility. Only last week I made a video on the console port for Crusader Kings 3, and was actually very surprised at how well that game played and ran on the PS5. Today, we're checking out another event I would have never even thought possible when I played Medieval 2 on my computer as a kid, namely Medieval 2 for mobile and tablets, namely iOS and Android. Like I said with Crusader Kings 3, porting the entire massive Medieval 2 experience to your phone or tablet is quite the achievement. But the question is of course whether the game plays well and satisfyingly so, and that's partially what this review will cover. On occasion of the game's release, I've learned how to record my gaming sessions on my phone, but since this is my very first attempt with this, I hope you'll cut me some slack. And if that sounds good to you, I really hope you leave a like and consider becoming a channel member, which allows me to make more interesting videos just like this one. And now, Medieval 2 Total War Mobile. The awesome thing about Medieval 2 is that just like Rome, it's a fairly straightforward game, but with deep mechanics that make even the base game interesting, and the base game is obviously what we have on offer here. Medieval 2 takes place during the beginning of the High Middle Ages and the Crusades, and is arguably the most beloved game in the series. But that is on PC of course, and the question for this video is obviously whether this whole campaign and the battles work well in the palm of your hand. And well, I'd actually say it works as well as you could possibly hope for, and that's bigger praise than you might think. So let's get straight to it. There is definitely a learning curve going into Medieval 2 Mobile, as everything you can easily do with a mouse pointer must now be done with your fingers. If you wish to construct a building for example, you can now either double tap or hold your finger on the chosen city, then click on the construct icon and then choose your building, again holding over the chosen one to see its details. The steps aren't necessarily that much more complex than in the PC version, but when holding this game in your hand, you might find yourself clicking the wrong things every now and then, a fact which is probably made much less relevant on the biggest screen of an iPad. But constructing buildings is actually the easy part. The somewhat more complex part is moving your armies around, which is done like this. An army is tapped like you would a mouse click, but then you need to tap on the chosen location and then tap the OK sign to actually go there. Alternatively, holding down instead of a double tap is also an option. To merge armies or navies, the units or armies must be selected, and then you must remember to hold your finger on the other to merge them, then click the corresponding OK sign. In other words, the game has you alternating between sometimes tapping and sometimes holding, in addition to always demand that you confirm your actions. And while it obviously slows down time and makes turns take a bit longer, it's also a completely understandable move, as tapping wrong and doing something you didn't want to, and then being unable to undo it, would probably be a much worse outcome. I actually prefer the holding method though, as it seems a bit more reliable and is less taxing on my knightly fingers. However, it could have been a nice option in the menu to cut away the need for an OK icon, just to see if the game would flow better. Medieval 2 for mobile even lets you choose your own faction heir, which is something the original did not allow for. What's more is that the guild system has been much improved with increased transparency, allowing us to actually see how likely it is that a guild becomes available in a city. These changes are actually really awesome, and coupled with the high resolution and honestly really awesome UI, Medieval 2 has arguably never been better. You further get every settlement detail readily available in the windows, and the game is overall good at providing information. On the whole then, the campaign in Medieval 2, whether it's setting your taxes, conquering settlements, erecting buildings, or conducting diplomacy, is so straightforward and easy to comprehend as concepts and tangible actions that the mobile format manages to retain every positive aspect, and even improve upon them. I also really like the fact that this is Medieval 2 as you remember it in all its glory, so you actually have to conquer and destroy your enemies in order to play them in the campaign. I'm personally now playing on a now quite outdated iPhone 10, but the campaign map runs perfectly well and even looks quite sharp to boot. But one of the best things about Medieval 2 are the awesome battles where we really get to prove once and for all who the better commander is, and it's what likely will draw the attention of a lot of players. And you know, they're actually really awesome even here, even when playing with touch controls and without a mouse. It did take me a few tries to really get into things, and from the get-go, I was quite confused on how to do things like positioning and selection. But luckily, Feral Interactive has provided us with all the tutorial videos we'll ever need, which are easily accessible by clicking the button in the top left corner at any time, which takes you straight to a number of tutorial videos. Once I mastered the tricks, everything went so much more smoothly. I now learned how to position my units in completely new ways, since Medieval 2 Mobile lets you position units in a slowed down real-time mode. This is a massive help compared to moving units one at a time, and usually works great. However, sometimes things get a bit funky, and I don't know why I here was not able to move the box around, or why the units remained in their current positions when I wanted to place them in a line. As you might see down on the screen here, I sometimes have problems actually clicking on the right units on my tiny screen. But luckily, if you run your finger from the bottom and upward, the unit selection tab expands, making things much easier. There are also controls for army formations, which is really convenient. I do wish I knew how to move the entire army in the position they're in though, which is a feature in later Total War games which Medieval 2 Mobile would have really benefited from. I know I'm not talking about just tapping to move forward. Camera movement is another thing, and it's probably one of the most intuitive gameplay mechanics. You zoom in and rotate the camera as you would in any other 3D space, which works wonderfully, but I must admit that rotating the camera, without also zooming in or out, is quite the challenge, and I wish there was something preventing the two movements from overlapping to this extent. Despite a few quirks then, the battles in Medieval 2 play surprisingly well, honestly to a degree which I never thought possible with touch controls. I tested out many varying battles, from smaller skirmishes to larger battles, and found that as long as I took my time and delegated commands, and made use of good tactics, that the battles of Medieval 2 Mobile are a very good substitute for the full PC versions. They even look great as well, especially when they're moving into battle and you're seeing a cavalry charge coming, and even though the visual detail on my phone is a bit lower than on my PC, it's honestly barely noticeable in the heat of battle. Even the sounds are fantastic, as represented by the Holy Roman Early Musketeers here. I never thought I'd say it, but Medieval 2 is a game I've actually enjoyed playing on my phone. It looks great, runs well, and offers so much content that it likely towers above all other strategy games on mobile devices, even its predecessor, Rome. The controls do take some time to get used to, and they might remain a bit clunky on smaller screens, but as an overall experience, having Medieval 2 available on the go is so much fun, and I can imagine it's even better on the likes of an iPad or an iPhone Max. If you have no interest in mobile gaming, then obviously don't bother. But if you've been wanting an excellent and classic strategy game on the go, which offers hundreds of hours of gameplay, then Medieval 2 is likely your best bet. Feral Interactive did an amazing job with this one, and I suddenly feel the urge to play a future Medieval 2 remastered. Thank you so much for watching. Just like with CK3, it's really fun seeing both Paradox and CA outsource exciting projects like this to third-party companies who dedicate their work to making these awesome games accessible to new audiences and devices. Let me know if you're interested in Medieval 2 on mobile and tablets, and if you enjoyed the video, I really hope you leave a like and consider becoming a channel member, which really helps me get more awesome content out there. Make sure to join our Discord as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.